Hello friends, welcome to a new chapter today. In this chapter, let us now learn about endometrial hyperplasia and endometrial carcinoma. So what does endometrial hyperplasia mean? Endometrial hyperplasia is a spectrum of morphological and biological alterations of endometrium. Here the alteration of endometrium will be present both in glands and in stroma. So this alteration of endometrium will be from endometrial hyperplasia, which is a physiological state, to to carcinoma in situ. Okay, so anyways, this is separate. So we have two important things. This endometrial carcinoma is important. Why? It has two important things. One, the patient comes to you with abnormal bleeding, and this can sometimes precede or occur, or actually this can precede or occur with endometrial carcinoma. That means it is associated with endometrial carcinoma. One, it is associated with endometrial carcinoma, and second, it can cause bleeding. So because of that, this is very important. So because of this endometrial hyperplasia and endometrial carcinoma, both these are this endometrial hyperplasia is very important. Okay, now first we will see endometrial hyperplasia, types of endometrial hyperplasia. So in the management of before we go to the management of endometrial hyperplasia, so first we will see the endometrial hyperplasia can be divided into two types. One, we have simple endometrial hyperplasia. Second, we have complex endometrial hyperplasia. So in simple endometrial hyperplasia, this mainly results from the circumstances in which there is prolonged or increased estrogen production. So wherever there is prolonged or increased estrogen production, then there is simple endometrial hyperplasia, right? Here you see the most common causes are follicular cyst of ovary, polycystic ovarian disease, glandular and theca cell tumors of ovary, hormone replacement therapy. So these are the main causes of simple simple endometrial hyperplasia: follicular cysts of ovary, PCOD, granulosa and theca cell tumors of ovary, and hormone replacement therapy. In perimenopausal age group, these are associated with glucose intolerance also. Then what do you see in pathology? In pathology, I'll just show you the picture. So here in the pathology, you see the glands are large, cystic and enlarged. I'll show you the picture also, just a minute. In simple type of endometrial hyperplasia, you see large cystic, large cystic glands with increased gland to stromal ratio. There is scanty mitosis and glands are lined by columnar epithelium. Okay, then if you see complex type, it is less associated with estrogen, not much associated with estrogen. Here the cause is unknown. Sometimes it can be associated with either polycystic ovarian disease or glucose intolerance. Then here pathology, if you see glands are increased in number, and you see the glands are now here in this, the glands are thrown into folds. Overcrowding of glands is seen, and you see numerous mitosis, and the glands are also lined by stratified squamous epithelium, and stroma here is densely cellular. Okay, so these are the things that you see in complex hyperplasia. I'll show you both the pictures. See, these are the pictures from Robbins. Here you see the endometrial polyp here. Okay, anyways, that is not necessary here. Yeah, endometrial hyperplasia. This is the endometrial hyperplasia. See, this is a normal sized uterus with many folds. These are the folds which you are seeing here. These are many folds of hyperplastic epithelium here. So this is gross picture of endometrial hyperplasia, where you see last fronts of hyperplastic endometrium. Okay, now this is the picture of endometrial non-typical hyperplasia, that is simple hyperplasia, where you see there is increased endometrium. Definitely this is the amount of endometrium which is increased, and you see these are the glands which are largely seen, and they are lined by columnar cells. So these are actually lined by, so if you see, these are the columnar cells which you see, and these are lined by the columnar cells, and these glands are cystic. Okay, so these are cystic glands, right? So this is endometrial hyperplasia, but simple endometrial hyperplasia. Now this is the picture of atypical endometrial hyperplasia, where there are complex glands. See, the glands are many cystic like this, they are very complex, right? And they are also lined by columnar epithelium with hyperchromatic nuclei. Here you will see hyperchromatic nuclei, crowded endometrial hyperchromatic nuclei. Okay, complex outlines and branching structures are seen. So this is about endometrial hyperplasia, but atypical endometrial hyperplasia. So these are the pictures which you see. Okay, then if you see, that is the two types of hyperplasia which you see: simple endometrial hyperplasia and a complex endometrial hyperplasia. Now once you have diagnosed it, then you will have to know the progression to cancer. How, in what is their level of progression to cancer, chances of progression to carcinoma. So this is like, we can divide it as type of hyperplasia. Based on the hyperplasia you can divide it. It can be, see, for example, simple without atypia, it has 1% risk of progression to cancer. Complex without atypia, 3% risk of progression to cancer. Simple with atypia, 8% risk of progression to cancer. Complex hyperplasia with atypia, 29 to 30% there is increased risk of progression to cancer, right? Now this is very important. These numbers are very important. 1% is simple without atypia, 3% is complex without atypia, 8% is simple with atypia, 29 to 30% is complex with atypia. Okay, then let us now learn, before going into the treatment, let us now learn how we are going to diagnose this endometrial hyperplasia. So what is happening here? Here if you see, first there is increased estrogen. Here in endometrial hyperplasia, all of this is occurring because of excessive estrogen. Okay, because of this increased estrogen, this will proliferate the endometrium, this will activate endometrium. Okay, just a minute, I'll just zoom in so that I can write it properly. Okay, so first there is increased estrogen, right? Because of this increased estrogen, there is increased proliferation of endometrium. So whenever there is increased proliferation of endometrium, the person will have, the woman will come to you with with complaints of increased bleeding, excessive bleeding has the complaints. So with history of excessive bleeding, the patient comes to you. So once he comes to you with increased bleeding, then what is the first investigation done? First investigation done is transvaginal ultrasonography. In the transvaginal ultrasonography, you will have to check the endometrial thickness. You will have to check the endometrial thickness. Now if the endometrial thickness, it varies for both menopausal and premenopausal and postmenopausal. If this endometrial thickness for premenopausal women, if you check, and if it is, I'll write it here, it will be better. Endometrial thickness, if it is for premenopausal, women, if this endometrial thickness is more than or equal to 12 millimeter, can be more than or equal, if it is more than or equal to 12 millimeter, or if you see in the postmenopausal women, in the premenopausal women, it can be more than or equal to 12 millimeters. And if this endometrial thickness in postmenopausal women, in postmenopausal, it is more than or equal to 5 millimeters according to FIGO classification, or if it is more than or equal to 4 millimeters according to ACOG guidelines. 5 millimeters according to FIGO and 4 millimeters according to ACOG guidelines. In both these conditions, you will have to suspect endometrial hyperplasia, and you will have to go through the next investigation, which is endometrial aspiration biopsy. So in this condition, you will have to do endometrial aspiration biopsy should be done. Okay, then how do you do this endometrial aspiration biopsy? This endometrial aspiration biopsy is actually it is an OPD procedure itself. You don't need to admit the patient, it is an OPD procedure, and this is actually done with the help of an instrument which is called as, this is an OPD procedure, and it is done using a Pippel, or we have Vibra aspirator. We have Pippel or Vibra aspirator, or we can also use a cannula which is called as Carmen cannula. There is Pippel or Vibra aspirator or Carmen's cannula. With this we can do this endometrial aspiration biopsy, and for this procedure you don't need to use any anesthesia. So here no anesthesia is needed. Okay, this is the investigation of choice, which is endometrial aspiration biopsy. This is the investigation of choice. Very good. Is it the gold standard? But this is not the gold standard. Then what is the gold standard investigation? Though we won't do it on our daily basis, but the gold standard investigation for this endometrial hyperplasia is doing fractional curettage. You can do fractional curettage, which is a gold standard procedure. So this fractional curettage, you will take 7 separate samples are taken in this fractional curettage. Okay, then this is the gold standard. But if you were asked what is the second best, so this is the best. Then what is the second best? Second best is doing dilatation, and curettage is the second best procedure. Okay, second best procedure is dilatation and curettage. So this is about, this is how you will have to diagnose it. So first you will see the estrogen. Okay, you will see increased estrogen, then that means there is proliferation of endometrium. So because there is this proliferation of endometrium, so then the patient comes to you with increased bleeding. Then first investigation is transvaginal ultrasonography. In the transvaginal ultrasonography, you will see the endometrial thickness. This endometrial thickness in premenopausal women, it will be more than or equal to 12 millimeters. In postmenopausal women, it will be more than or equal to 5 millimeters according to FIGO, and more than or equal to 4 millimeters according to ACOG guidelines. Then you will do the most important investigation of choice in this situation is endometrial aspiration biopsy is the investigation of choice. This is an OPD procedure, and in this endometrial aspiration biopsy you use a cannula which is called as Pippel or Vibra aspirator or Carmen cannula. So this cannula which you are seeing here, this is the Pippel cannula, or this cannula is called as Pippel cannula. Okay, you will do this, you will use this Pippel or Vibra aspirator cannula, and you will get this endometrial aspiration biopsy. Okay, then what is the gold standard? Gold standard for this technique is fractional curettage, where you will take 7 separate samples. The second best is obviously dilatation, and curettage is the second best investigation of second gold standard. Okay, now once we have diagnosed it with this thing, okay, then you are doing biopsy, then you will get those biopsy findings, then you will have to treat it. So if you see in the treatment, we have this treatment depends upon 2 things: one, patient stage, and also patient's age, and also the presence or absence of cellular atypia. So first we will see what is the treatment for non-atypical hyperplasia. So if you see non-atypical hyperplasia, this is mainly managed medically. So it is simple hyperplasia without any atypical features, so it is managed medically. So here this mainly depends upon whether the woman is premenopausal woman or the woman is postmenopausal woman. If the woman is premenopausal woman, then we will have to do just a progesterone therapy is sufficient. So in the progesterone therapy also we can give the progesterone, that is medroxyprogesterone acetate, can be given for 21 days a month daily for 3 months. For 3 months you should give at least 21 days a month for daily for 3 months. Okay, you can also use a progesterone containing IUD. Okay, for premenopausal age group, so we give progesterone therapy. If it's postmenopausal, if she is postmenopausal age group, then it depends on whether it is simple or complex. If it is simple hyperplasia without any atypia, then you will just have to follow up the patient. You don't need to do any treatment. If it is complex hyperplasia without atypia, then you should give cyclical and continuous progesterone therapy is advised. Then cyclical or continuous progesterone therapy are advised if it's complex atypia. Then what about atypical hyperplasia? If it is atypical hyperplasia, if that is for simple for without atypia. If there is no atypia, if she is premenopausal, you should give progesterone therapy. If it is postmenopausal, then you should do if she is postmenopausal, then it depends on whether it is simple hyperplasia or complex hyperplasia. If she has simple hyperplasia, then you will have to follow up without therapy, whereas in complex hyperplasia you should give cyclical or continuous progesterone therapy, and you will also have to follow the patient annually. You should do endometrial biopsy to these patients. Okay, so you should do this. Then if she has atypical hyperplasia, if there is atypical hyperplasia, then the treatment of choice is hysterectomy plus bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. Okay, if she is premenopausal and if she wanted to preserve her uterus, if she is premenopausal and wanted to preserve her uterus for fertility, then you can give high dose progesterone therapy, and also you will have to ask for periodic transvaginal ultrasonography and endometrial biopsy. So this is about endometrial hyperplasia. Thank you for watching my lecture. Thank you.